Hey everybody, you are tuned in to Hanging with Here to Zen, the show that is a place for people who love all kinds of music. We really hope you enjoy your time with us today. Make sure you hit subscribe if you already haven't, and hit that notification bell to be kept up to date. We would love to hear from you over on our social media platforms, so just search Here to Zen and you'll find us. Lastly, could you leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify or Google Podcasts, or wherever you're going to be tuning in from? Those reviews help other people to find us, so we appreciate the reviews and the support. Thanks so much for tuning in. All right, so playing good things like this week.
Yeah, I know. Very fucking came up very quickly. Still haven't rehearsed yet. Start tomorrow.
Okay. So
Singer lives in LA, so he gets back in. I think he got back in this morning. So
wow, that's
try
one
and
jet.
figure
That's
it
one
out.
jet lagged rehearsal.
Yeah. He'll have to figure it out.
That's up to him. He's a singer.
Yeah, correct.
So you're going to be playing United Paper People in full. How many of those songs did you play back in the day? Is there a fair chunk of the album that got left unplayed?
Yeah, there was a few of those songs as I started to sort of pick my way through it a couple of weeks ago to get a bit of a head start. There was probably 3 or 4 that I don't reckon I have played since probably 2008, maybe when we're touring the one album. It was fine. It was We're playing those songs, but from that, I think only about 3 or 4 actually made it out to the set list for the rest of the career. And then there's actually a lot of fucking acoustic songs on this record as you go back and listen to it. So, which is great because it's 3 or 4 less songs that I've got to learn.
Perfect.
But I think we're going to try and add a bit of band stuff into a couple of them just to so that we're not walking around looking like idiots on the stage whilst Darren sits there serenading everybody.
Perfect. Now, what are your fond memories of festivals back in the day?
Festivals always as attending or as playing?
Both.
So attending as a punter, this is going to sound terrible, but I don't think I could go now. I'm not great in big crowds. And I much, I don't know what it is. I don't like being outdoors with heaps and heaps of people. I don't really go to anything like that anymore. But when I was a kid, a lot of like Darren and myself, we actually met at Warped Tour in Mornington down here in 2002, I'm guessing, around there. Used to go to Falls Festival and all those things. So as a kid, absolutely loved it. But as I've gotten older, or maybe being spoiled, being on the other side of the ropes for so many years has probably made that a bit more difficult also. But from a performance perspective, I used to love the gathering of so many creative people, and especially bands, even with good things. Whilst it's an alternative festival, there's a lot of bands that are of very different genres within that alternative bracket. So it's pretty cool to get the exposure to see. I was actually telling one of the other interviews, there's quite a few bands I've not heard of on this festival. So I've deliberately not listened to them because one of my favorite things to do is see a band live and make a determination or see if I enjoy them live first. So I'm not going in with an expectation of whatever I've listened to recorded. So I'm looking forward to that. But back in when we used to do a lot of festivals, I think it was just the very matey camaraderie, sort of lot lower pressure, knowing that the whole show is not yours. Typically, we always get to play a bit earlier, which is great, so you can get out and enjoy the rest of your day. So, it's really just fun, more of a fun environment than your own headline shows. You got to get there at 2 PM, sound check, find something to do till 11 o'clock at night. Day in, day out for weeks. Whereas festivals, this one's pretty intense, 3 and 3, but I think it'll still be a really fun atmosphere. And I'm looking forward to seeing some bands that I've never seen before.
Sure. And the festival vibe can be a little bit that hit and run if you've got 3 and 3, where you might have either a late night flight or an early flight. So how important is preparation for you guys as a band, besides the rehearsals, like just the day prep?
Yeah, it's it changed over our journey, but by the end, we got pretty specific about not letting too many people around us prior to a set. We found it wasn't really a measurable effect, but when we had friends or family around prior to the shows, we often found we just didn't play quite as well, whether it be because we went in a little bit distracted or there's just something was a little bit off. So by the last couple of tours, we were sort of, for at least an hour before our set, it was sort of just the four of us,
Yep.
and any of our touring party. But apart from that, nothing specific. You know, we don't really have any rituals or anything. It's just to be together in that time and doing our own thing, even if we're separate, listening to music or you know, Carl used to like to fucking push ups and weird shit like that before a set. So yeah, it's just having that hour of time with us, not getting all woo woo, but just to get our sort of the energy all felt like it synced up a bit, and
Yep.
And we sort of walked on stage ready to go as that unit.
Cool. Now, back in the day, band won an ARIA award. We've just had the ARIAs last week. Do you think an ARIA means the same in 2022 as what it did when you first won yours?
Well, we didn't actually win one. So we
Oh,
got lots of nominations, but never actually quite got there. Look, I assume it does. I assume it must mean, it could potentially mean more because there's so many fucking artists and stuff now. So I feel like there's a lot of competition. They certainly look like they're just as well attended from an outsider's perspective. I went to a few, but I don't know. I'm probably not qualified to comment because to be 100% honest, I've not kept up with music for a little while.
Yep.
Yeah. I sort of have, as many people of my age do, stuck like my dress sense. I've stuck with what I loved when I was 25, and it's sort of dragged on through and just on my nearing of my 40s.
That's fine. Do you think that things like the industry don't really think about the alternative and hard rock side as much as they should?
Look, potentially, from an outsider's perspective now, and where I think there is a difference in, say, awards and things, where it used to be, yes, you had singles awards, but then you had album awards.
Yep.
And I feel like the album is gone.
Yeah.
Pretty much, which is a huge shame, I think, because we used to put a lot of thought and effort into the way the tracks were laid out to make, you know, the album, you know, run a certain way, have a certain mood, have its ebbs and flows. Whereas now it almost feels like music is content and they just got to keep moving things out bit by bit. So in that respect, when looking at alternative music and rock and roll and heavy music, it used to all be about albums, you know, and it more so in that alternative genre, I think, than say something like pop, where you would have a couple of singles and people didn't really buy the albums. Whereas with rock and roll and the alternative stuff, people loved albums. So I think maybe in that regard, it's sort of fallen behind a bit potentially. But again, that's just looking from my very, very naive outside perspective these days. I did comment with someone the other day. It's been really interesting. Our career, even our first record was 100% physical sales, and our last was 100% digital. So over 4 albums. So it was an interesting time to sort of watch the transition of music, and then obviously it's evolved further again to pretty much, unless you're buying vinyl, there's no people aren't getting albums or listening to albums in their entirety. They're just putting on playlists or handpicking things, which has benefits, of course, but I think you're just missing a lot of songs from a lot of bands that would have otherwise got some light.
Yeah, and I agree with that because at the end of the day, you see a band put out a collection of singles, and they're generally produced by different producers, and then they package them together on an album, and they just sound so weird.
Yeah, it's like a compilation.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
No, I absolutely feel that.
So, what's the band that you're really wanting to see on Good Things?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see NoFX. Somehow I've never seen them live, so they're right up there. I'm really interested in seeing the live show of Bring Me the Horizon. I think it'll be a pretty spectacular show in itself, just as a visual aspect. Story So Far is another band that I sort of listened to a fair bit, and I think will be great. And then I'd like to see Mill and Colin. I don't know if I'll get the opportunity. They're on pretty much straight after us on another stage. I know my partner's coming to Melbourne, and she said, I'm not even going to see you that day, mate. I'm running around and catching. She's got her schedule all booked up. But and then, like I said, I'm really just open to going for a wander and seeing what grabs my ear. Yep. I did see one of the bands I really wanted to see ended up pulling out, which was Fever 333.
Yep.
Which is a bit disappointing. Would have been great to see because from all reports, a pretty amazing live act. But yep. I'm sure I'll stumble across something that sort of ignites a bit of a spark.
After the festival, what's actually going to be next for the band? Is it just sort of back and chill, or is there going to be some plans laid out?
We'll probably have some conversations around that this week, especially once the festival's over, see where everything sits. We all obviously still get along great. We all have very different lives now. Darren lives in the States and has some stuff going on over there. Two of the guys have got, families and businesses, and I myself run my own business. So there's a lot of other stuff, obviously, than when you're in your early 20s. But who knows? Anything could happen if we have a really good time and the response is what we want. Then we might have some conversations around that.
Cool. And as I leave you today, what do you want to tell everyone leading up to the festivals this week?
First one is get there early, because we're on early. So come on in and sneak in front, catch us before you sneak off to your next band. But be gentle. It's been 8 years. So yep. I've been working on it. The other guys have been working on it individually, but we're getting to work tomorrow. So we're just really looking forward to getting out in front. We've had a lot of really, really cool feedback on the social stuff that we have done and have seen for good things. So it feels like there's a vibe out there. So just hoping that it's still out there and people still give a shit.
Awesome, mate. Enjoy the quick run. Thanks for hanging out today.
Andrew, appreciate your time, mate.
Thanks, mate. Bye.
Have a good day. Ta.